Welcome back to the Chips Podcast. I guess quarantine edition. Tyler Melito and Ryan Amick. Ryan, how have you been, buddy? I haven't seen you in a minute.
It's kind of weird seeing you through a camera, but it's good to see you nonetheless. It's been about a month, I'd say, since our last show.
Probably a month almost to the day, I think.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time, but I'm glad we're doing it at least in this format because it's better to have this than nothing, you know?
Yes, to quote Jalen Rose, you got to give the people what they want. Yes, and we know the people want to hear this. So, Ryan, with the NFL draft a week away almost, a week and a day tomorrow, let's talk NFL drafts. Why not? Let's do a mock draft. What do you think?
I'm definitely on board for that. I can't wait for the draft. Also, that's going to be virtual. That's going to be a totally different format. I'm interested to see how that's all going to play out. It's obviously not going to be the same. I can't go up, shake the commissioner's hand. Goodell must be happy, though. They're usually do. So that's a good note for him, but otherwise it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. But for now, we can have our own little mock draft since we have a little in advance before the draft actually happens. So say whenever you're ready, get underway.
Yeah. I will say one thing, though, about the draft. I wonder how much the NFL is paying Zoom to do this whole thing, because I'm sure Zoom's making money out of this.
Zoom's market just from all
Holy cow.
Skyrocketing.
Yeah.
I thought when this all happened, I thought we'd just be FaceTiming or something. I didn't even know there was a whole app or what have you just for this. And so they got to be happy with this. But
also, what God forbid something freezes. Like you never and with the first pick, Joe Burrow, and it just freezes.
It's the black, and that's it.
That'd be hilarious. Well, I kind of just said it. Cincinnati Bengals at the first pick. It's Joe Burrow, right?
There's no debate there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Burrow, you'd probably prefer a different destination, considering that the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns defenses will be playing you twice a year.
Yeah.
And you're in a dysfunctional franchise as is with the Bengals. But, I mean, when you have just by far some of the best college football numbers in the history of NCAA. He got
for a single season.
671 passing yards, 60 touchdowns, and 6 picks. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
And a national championship.
Yeah, he's got a ring to go with it. He's got that attitude. He's just the confidence, the swagger. He's got everything. He's accurate. I mean, there's not much wrong you say with this kid. I'm more concerned about the situation he might be going in with the Bengals, because
there isn't much there.
He's going to flourish there. Yeah.
I will say, though, the Bengals do have some stuff. They got Joe Mixon at running back. They got Tyler Boyd and A.J. Green on the outside.
I think his lucky stars they kept Green, because I didn't think he was going to be on the Bengals. I mean, at least he has that.
They would have tried to trade him, I assume.
You think they're going to try to trade Green?
I don't think they will now that they know they're getting Joe Burrow. But I think if they had not gotten the number 1 pick, they would have tried to trade A.J. Green, because there's no way they would have Burrow.
Shifting gears for the first pick.
Yes, and I think we will for the second pick too. Washington Redskins, they need a lot.
Together, Chase Young.
Yeah,
no doubt. We're both Giants fans. We were hoping we'd cling on to that second pick
and they had to beat the Redskins.
Talent. I know we had to. Literally, it was the Chase Young Bowl, and I remember we won that game. And I've never rooted against the Giants. That was the one game I ever remembered. Like vehement.
I think I rooted for them when they were
against the Giants.
Yeah.
And it went to overtime, too. That was a thriller game. But Redskins lost, but they did win the grand prize of Chase Young. And
the best overall talent in the draft, by far.
In 9 regular season games, 16 and a half sacks. I mean, come on.
Most in college football last year. And they got some defense filled with former first-round picks. Ryan Kerrigan comes to mind. Montez Sweat, I think last year was the first-round pick. And Ron Rivera's
rookies and sacks. I mean, that's a young duo there. That could be dangerous.
Very dangerous. And Ron Rivera's coming in as the new head coach of the Redskins. I think he's going to want to go anchor with his first pick as the Redskins head coach. Sure, you can go get some help for Dwayne Haskins on the offensive line or at wide receiver, but I think it'd be a little bit of a reach to go wide receiver. So I think Chase Young
checks every box there is for an edge rusher. I mean, just the speed, the power, just the technique. Like, he's got a bag full of moves he could put on any offensive tackle. It's just – and he can in coverage too. Like, he can just do it all. I mean, he checks every single box, and I think he's a no-brainer. The top 2 should definitely play out as we predicted, as most people are predicting, Joe Burrow, Chase Young.
Barring something crazy, I forgot to mention, we are doing this whole mock draft without trades. We're assuming that no trades will happen because that's just so unpredictable. I could say, oh, yeah, the New England Patriots are going to move up to 2 and take Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, is it going to happen? No, but
yeah, it's more fun just to have it structured and no trades because anyone could trade. Like, you don't know that. What you do know is who has the pick, who's available. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense for this.
I will say trades will be fun on draft night.
Yeah, trades are always fun. And I bet there's going to be some because there's – especially with Tua's injury, I mean, people are looking to trade up. I mean, Dolphins, we'll get to them later, but they're looking like they might take them, but someone could leapfrog them. With the third pick, which we can transition to now, the Detroit Lions, who do you have them selecting?
I have them taking Derrick Brown out of Auburn, the defensive tackle.
All right.
Tackle. Wow, I can't speak today. With Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook in your division, you need to be able to control the line of scrimmage, and Derrick Brown is the best interior D lineman in the draft by far. And he's someone the Lions could plug in, not have to worry about, similar to how they did with Ndamukong Suh when they drafted him almost a decade ago now, which feels crazy to say. And I think you could go Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State at corner, but I think D lineman is better for this Lions defense. Matt Patricia at head coach, he needs to start winning, and I think shoring up that defense will help.
He's on a short leash right now, very short leash. I see what you're saying. I've seen some mock drafts where Derrick Brown, a bit of a surprise pick at number 3, could end up on the Lions. But personally, I think they will go for Okudah. Given that they did trade away Slay, I think they do need a replacement right there. He's by far the best cornerback in the draft. He's in terms of talent, he's one of the top 5 players in the draft. I think it's just an easy hole to fix. He's a great player. Ohio State always has great corners. This is another one on the list. He checks every box as well. And another thing I think the Lions should – I know we talked about no trades, but I think they should consider trading down to the Dolphins pick. Or even
trading down to 5 or trading down to 6 to L.A.
Yeah, just trading down. Or if I was the GM of the Lions, I might even think about drafting Tua because Stafford's on contract for another year or 2. But Tua, with his injuries, you might want him to redshirt maybe a year and kind of just sit back, lay low. Apparently, he's 100% healthy. He could go right away, but I don't think that's right for him. Yeah. But, I mean, you have potentially – he could end up being the best QB in this draft. And they've just been hemorrhaging for a quarterback for the longest time. They've just always been dysfunctional. They had Stafford. He's been decent, but
he's put up a bunch of empty stats.
Yeah, empty calorie stats, and I think his time in Detroit's over. So I think they could throw a curveball and draft Tua, but I think Okudah would make more sense. Or Brown, as you said.
Yeah, I think if Tua goes 3, it's through a trade. It's not from the Lions. I think it's going to be either Okudah or Brown. Shifting gears to number 4, our team, the New York Football Giants. Who do you have? Because I'm interested to hear who you think.
I don't know if this is how Gettleman's going to be thinking, but if I were in his shoes, no brainer Isaiah Simmons is by far.
I thought about that.
I think he's one of the best players in this draft. He's up there with Chaisson, best defenders. I mean,
he's probably the best athlete in the draft.
Oh, yeah. Talk about versatility. I mean, he could play almost any position on defense. He could be edge rusher, linebacker, drop back in coverage. He had a couple of interceptions and pass deflections. I mean, he's got like cornerback numbers in that category. Never mind his blitzing and just tackles in general. He's fast. He's strong. He's amazing. I mean, I'm lost for words of this guy. I'd be shocked if one of the top 5 teams doesn't snag him because he's a Pro Bowler immediately from the start. And actually, another thing I wanted to add, I used the Ringer a lot. They're scouting for this draft to get some information, and they compared him to a, quote, mega Derwin James. And if we would remember, he was injured this year, but Derwin James
is a bad man.
Was ranked 31st in the top 100 NFL players. So if you're a mega version of that, and he was only not in the top 100 because he was injured last year.
And that's that linebacker.
If you're an elite player, but you're a mega version right from the start. I mean, what else is there to say?
Yeah. I remember watching Isaiah Simmons when he played Syracuse last year in the Dome, and I was crying every time because Syracuse couldn't stop him. But I'm going to go different route. I think that this is the route that Gettleman should go. Tristen Wirfs, or any offensive tackle possible. This team needs it. They haven't had a good lineman for the majority of the 2010s ever since they won that Super Bowl in 2011. Wirfs showed out at the combine. He is huge, 6'5", 320, and ran a 4.85 40. And when your last 2 top picks were Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, you need to give lanes for Barkley and protect Daniel Jones because they weren't able to do that for the end of Eli Manning's career. the Giants just haven't been able to shore up that offensive line. They got to try something. Isaiah Simmons, I would love him to be on the Giants as a player, but for a fit and for my own sanity, I think they need to go Tristen, Wirfs, or some offensive linemen to protect Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
And I can see that. We definitely do need offensive line help. And Wirfs' combine stats were off the charts. I mean, he's athleticism in terms of vertical speed, strength, everything. He's just top tier in that aspect. But the reason I think if we were to pick a tackle, I think they should try to trade down maybe because, in my opinion, there's 4 tackles in this draft that are pretty similar and almost all on the same type of level.
I had a hard time differentiating those 4 guys.
Yeah, they're almost the same size, like looking at size, height, or size, weight, like just measurements like that, and also just their play style. I think there's 4 elite tackles in this draft, so that's why I think they should. If they do want to select the tackle, they should try to trade down. And get
those.
With it.
I'm assuming those 4 guys you mean are Wirfs, Jedrick Willis, Andrew Thomas, and Mekhi Becton.
Yes.
Those 4 guys are freaks of nature for their size and their abilities. And who knows, like this could be another spot where a team tries to trade up to get ahead of Miami because everyone thinks Miami's going to take. I'm assuming we'll shift gears to Tua.
5th pick, which is next. Dolphins both think Tua, correct?
Yeah. And I think teams will try to leapfrog Miami if Miami doesn't trade up. To get Tua. And with Miami, tank for Tua, it's going to work, I think, barring something crazy.
It didn't look like it was going to work at first. I mean, they started the year,
holy cow,
or something. They couldn't win a game. But then they started winning almost too many games. And then beat the Patriots at the end of the year. And it was just like, what is this Dolphins team doing? They were tanking all year. Now they're winning at the end and might risk not having Tua. But as the draft's shaping out, it looks like they could very well end up with Tua. Or if they have to trade up to the 3rd pick to get him, they could easily do that. They have 3 picks in the first round.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Use one of those to guarantee that their signal caller for the next generation is Tua Tagovailoa. And another interesting thing about Tua, and a reason that I think they really want to get this kid, even with injuries aside and those concerns, is not too long ago, this team had an opportunity of snagging Drew Brees.
Yeah.
His injury concern, also he's a little smaller like Tua is, and they didn't end up getting him. How do you think they feel right now? They've been looking for his replacement for years with Tannehill and now Fitzpatrick. And
Josh Rosen didn't work.
Yeah, he's still on the team, and he's just – I don't think he's ever going to be a starter. But they were finally looking for an answer at QB, and I think Tua is definitely – could be the answer there. And why not? I mean, in terms of passer efficiency rating – had the highest in CFB history, 199.4. I mean, he throws it on a dot. He throws it just exactly where you need it, and that's just something that not every quarterback has. So obviously the injuries are a bit concerning, but I think it's slam dunk pick for Dolphins to take Tua here.
Yeah, I think if Tua had not gotten hurt, he would have been the number 1 overall pick just because of how far ahead he already was of Joe Burrow. And despite the injury, I mean, they don't need to play him right away. They could play Fitzpatrick for a year just to redshirt Tua, get him acclimated to the NFL, make sure everything looks good for them, and then he could start full-time, maybe toward the end of the season, whenever the season starts, given all this coronavirus, and who knows how long it's going to last, or whether he starts in 2021. But Tua is a no-brainer pick for me for the Dolphins by far. Yeah, and they got 3 picks, like you mentioned, in the first round, so that will be huge.
But in this mock draft, we do have him selecting 3 times, even though they very well could trade up. Or
trade down. You never know. They got a lot of draft picks in this draft.
Got a lot of leverage. And not even just this draft, from drafts
future
too. They stockpiled, and they have a bunch
loaded up.
All right, now moving on. Number 6, the LA Chargers moving into a new stadium. Do you think they will have a new quarterback with them?
I do not. I am not going to draft Justin Herbert, although many people think they will. It's got to go best player available. And you mentioned him a little earlier, a mega Derwin James. I'm going Isaiah Simmons. Come on. The best athlete in this draft by far, in my opinion. And I think, honestly, the Chargers, they would be better off tanking next year, having Tyrod Taylor start, and then try to get either Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or whoever comes up as a top quarterback next year. Because I think they're both better than Justin Herbert. And
I could see that with teams like the Jaguars, maybe. I think they're more in the tank mode. I think the Chargers, they were 12-4 2 years ago.
Yeah. But I was with Phillip Rivers a quarterback.
I know, but All right, moving to my pick, I think they will pick Justin Herbert, and I think this is the reason why. They were 12-4 2 years ago. They still have a solid defense set, playmakers all on the offense, and even with Melvin Gordon gone, they have Austin Eckler, who's putting up crazy numbers, especially receiving-wise. Talk about taking the pressure off a rookie quarterback. Eckler would be perfect for that role. Obviously, moving into the new stadium, you might want this new toy of a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert. And I think, obviously, I don't think he's the sixth best player in this draft, so it wouldn't be in terms of his draft status. It's more of need, but he's still a tall, strong-armed, accurate quarterback who played very well on senior day, and I think can help move this Chargers franchise forward more than Tyrod Taylor would.
Yeah. If it's going to be Tyrod Taylor, our quarterback, is going to be for a year, whether they draft a quarterback this year or next year. But one other thing with Simmons, you place him on that defense with Derwin James, who's coming back from injury, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Casey Hayward. They just signed Chris Harris from the Broncos. In a division where you got to play Patrick Mahomes twice. Woo-wee. That defense would be scary.
Yeah.
And like you said, they do have Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry, who could be nice transitional pieces to help if they were to go the Justin Herbert route. But I just think they could be better off waiting a year and try to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or another quarterback. Who knows? They could sign someone next season. You never know. Or sign Cam Newton or Jameis Winston.
I was just about to bring up they could sign Cam Newton right now.
Yeah.
Like I thought they would. I mean, he's got ties with Anthony Lynn, the head coach of the Chargers, and he's just like a better version of Tyrod Taylor. So might as well get a better version of what you already have. And if you're not going to draft a quarterback, so I just don't think Tyrod is the answer there. If it's
I agree.
Newton, if it's Herbert, or whoever it is, I think Tyrod's just a stopgate type of quarterback, which he's kind of been most of his career. It's kind of disappointing because I feel like he could be a starter if he was given the chance, but he's always been a situation where he's kind of just like in place for the new, younger, better version of quarterback, like when he was on the Browns with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and I think he would have played longer for the Browns had he not hurt his wrist. And Baker didn't come out of the gate strong. He played well in Buffalo. Tyrod Taylor did. I think he just needs to have a chance, and maybe he'll get in Los Angeles. Now going to number 7 with the Panthers, Cam Newton's former team. They signed Teddy Bridgewater, so they don't need a quarterback there. Who do you think they'll take?
McCaffrey to an extension today.
Oh, man.
Lead running back in history.
Yeah.
Before we go into the pick, how do you feel about that? I think he's worth it.
He is worth every penny.
Yeah.
The one fear I have, we've seen it with recent running backs, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell. They haven't performed to that contract. So it's a little concerning, but I think Christian McCaffrey will be the guy to break that mold just because of how talented he is.
And then again, what are the Panthers really playing for? I mean, I don't see them as a playoff team. If he doesn't perform up to the standard of the contract, it doesn't mean like they might lose more games, but I mean, they're not going for anything really next year. And also, he's pretty much their offensive identity. He's their entire offense. The offense runs through him. If you get rid of him, your whole offense changes, and it's already a mess. I mean, you have a new quarterback coming in, new coach. I mean, you need some sort of stability. And one of the best running backs in the league is very good stability in that aspect.
Yeah.
And even Zeke, you mentioned, I mean, sure, he's not living up to the contract maybe, but he was still putting up top 5 running back numbers last year. And it's worth the money. I mean, I just feel bad for running backs because I feel like they get gypped in this league.
They do get gypped.
Yeah. But moving on to the pick, the Panthers, I have them selecting Derrick Brown, who's off your boards already. But on my board, he's the best player available. I think that's what they're going for. They're in rebuilding mode. They have a bunch of needs. So what they should do is go after the best talent. And Derrick Brown is by far the best defensive lineman in this draft. He's a crazy run stopper, big, fast guy. He'll disrupt the backfield right from day one. And he's a good replacement for Gerald McCoy, too, who they lost.
Yeah. Honestly, Derrick Brown's off my board. I'm going to go with the guy who you took a little bit earlier in Jeff Okudah. I think
a little switch between Lions and Panthers.
Yes.
Players.
They lost James Bradbury, the Panthers did, who is going to the Giants, by the way. So the Panthers now need someone who is a lockdown corner, and Okudah is the best corner by far in the draft, you mentioned. And in the division with Michael Thomas, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, go on and on, Calvin Ridley, Emmanuel Sanders, you need someone who can lock down on the outside. And Okudah might not be that guy right away just because the game changes and the speed changes in the NFL, but he could definitely be someone going forward. I will say, though, if the Chargers were to go Herbert and Simmons was still on the board, he would be a great fit in Carolina, replacing Luke Kuechly.
I've heard things that they really want Simmons as well. The Panthers do.
They
And I'm
could
not
trade
surprised.
up.
They might try to trade up with
Trade
the
up to
Giants.
4.
Yeah, they might try to trade with the Giants just to make sure they get him and the Giants don't take him from him.
Yeah.
And if you're the Giants and you want a lineman, might as well take that trade. You get another pick and you get the best lineman available because, Wirfs was already taken, but they were taken by the Giants on your board.
Yeah.
So they could just take him at number 7 instead.
Yeah, I agree completely on that one. Number 8, Arizona. They made the huge splashy trade for DeAndre Hopkins.
Steal, a robbery.
I'm very curious as to why the Texans made that trade.
It's because Bill O'Brien doesn't know what he's doing at GM.
Yeah.
Coaching is enough for him. Focus on one thing before you go and mess up others, like the formation of your team. Also, they just couldn't figure out a right pay for Hopkins. He wanted to be paid like the best receiver in the league because he arguably is. But Bill O'Brien didn't think it was worth the pay. So instead, they get David Johnson, who's a lot of money, and Brandon Cooks they later trade for, who's almost the same contract as Hopkins.
Yeah, they basically traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, who's been hurt, Brandon Cooks, who's had injury issues, and a 4th-round pick.
And Randall Cobb, who's also injury issues and just not as good as one of the best receivers in the league. But so the Cardinals made moves in free agency and trades. Now let's see what they do in the draft. I have them selecting Jedrick Wills. I think they definitely need offensive line help because that's one of the only things missing on this offense is the line. It was not as bad last year as it was under Josh Rosen, but it still was bottom of the league, and Kyler was running all over the place trying to relieve pressure and get past the open receiver. Get someone like Jedrick Wills, who's arguably one of the better offensive tackles in this draft. He's a huge athletic body, and he fits a need that they really need.
Yeah, I have Wills going here as well. I think Arizona, I have my notes on a different computer because
So do I.
That's what we need here. 5th most sacks allowed the Cardinals did last season with 50. Kyler Murray, I know he's a fast quarterback, but he probably needs time to at least throw, and he shouldn't be running for his life. If he's going to be moving, it should be running for yards. And they also got Kenyon Drake, who they're taking a big chance on over David Johnson. You need someone on the outside who can create a lane, and I think Wills will definitely be that guy. Because he blocked on an Alabama squad who is always very good at pass protection, and aside from the Tua injury play, and they're always good at running the football. So I think Wills is a great fit at this spot for the Cardinals.
I agree.
Number 9, we got Jacksonville, as my computer has now froze. But
I could take over then.
I got it. It came back.
You got it? All right.
They need a lot. They've lost a lot on defense in recent years, so I got them going with Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. I think with the loss of Calais Campbell on that D-line, they need someone to pair with Yannick Ngakoue, who, as of right now, is on the team. He could get traded. He probably will get traded at this point. Just someone to shore up the interior, someone who could lock down Derrick Henry in the running game, someone who could lock down Marlon Mack in the running game, and now David Johnson in the running game in the AFC South. And I think the Jags' top need is corner because they've lost Jalen Ramsey, but it'd be a little bit of a reach to go of any of the guys after Okudah. It either be CJ Henderson, who is the best, second best wide receiver in the draft, in my opinion, and they could go wide receiver for Gardner Minshew, give him some help, whether it be Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. But you know what? I think defensive line, have that anchor. Kinlaw would be a great pick for them out of South Carolina.
I agree with everything you just said, and you pretty much took every word out of my mouth because every point
That's what I try to do.
Oh, yes. I also have Kinlaw going at number 9 to the Jaguars. Calais Campbell being gone, it just fits the need that they really have. Also, he's right up par with Derrick Brown. He's a dominant defensive lineman. He get into the backfield, stop the run, do anything. And that's just – it's been one of their weaknesses. They always seem to draft defenders anyway, so it's kind of in their same wheelhouse of drafting defenders in the draft. And also, I did consider them having maybe draft Jerry Jeudy or a wide receiver to help Minshew, but later on in the draft, we'll have my answer to that a little bit there. But, yeah, everything you said pretty much is why I agree Kinlaw to the Jaguars.
Yeah, they also have the 20th pick in the draft, the Jaguars do, so they might not have CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy by that point, but there are some other good wide
This is
receivers
stacked,
in this draft.
legendary wide receiver class. So if you're picking,
Legendary, you're going to go that far.
it's up there. It's stacked. There can
It's
easily
stacked.
be 5, 6 receivers that go in the first round, and they could all be game changers.
They could all be, definitely. Number 10 is
It's one
Cleveland.
we've had in a couple years, that's for sure.
Oh, by far. Number 10 is Cleveland, who did not meet expectations last year by far. Who do you have them taking?
I think they're in a similar situation as the Cardinals. They need to fix up their offensive line because they, too, have a bunch of weapons on offense. I mean, we know most of the weapons they have. No need to really list them or anything. Just like the Cardinals got new weapons, they just need to focus on their offensive line now with their young Oklahoma quarterback in both situations. I have them taking Tristen Wirfs since he was still on my board. I think he could be the best tackle in this draft, and he's just freakishly talented athlete, as we mentioned before. They just need to protect that blind side, put him on the left side, Jack Conklin on the right side. I think you're pretty good for the Browns.
I forgot they got in Conklin, which is a underrated signing.
Very big signing for them.
I think the Browns also go offensive tackle, but I'm going to – obviously, Wirfs is off my board. So I have him going Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. I think we've seen that Georgia can run the football with all their great running backs they've had. And when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Georgia alum, just saying, you need to be able to shore up that running game. They ranked 41st, the Georgia Bulldogs last year, in rushing offense in all college football. Something tells me Andrew Thomas had a slight hand in that. Just going to speculate. So I think they do need also to protect Baker Mayfield, obviously. So obviously, Wirfs and Willis are off my board. So Andrew Thomas, the number 3 offensive tackle, in my opinion. So he goes perfectly here for the Browns.
Yeah, in the draft, whoever tackles available, I feel like the Browns will select. Just the best tackle available.
Whoever is available. Whoever the number 1 is on their board.
Wirfs, whoever. All right, moving
Maybe
on.
Mekhi Becton, who knows?
Yeah. Moving on, the Jets pick number 11. I have them taking CeeDee Lamb.
I do as well.
Yes, I think it's a no-brainer. I think by far, maybe not by far, but I think he's the best receiver in this draft. I mean, when you have 21 yards per catch, I mean, that's just unreal movement after the ball. He's so elusive. I mean, he'd just be a game changer for them. And they just need any receiver that's available. Just like the Browns will take any tackle available, I feel like the Jets will take any receiver available because they have no one in that wide receiver locker room aside from injury-plagued receivers like Crowder and Kinlaw. I don't even know if he's still on the team, but I mean, they lost Henderson, and they need someone to help Sam Darnold, and CeeDee Lamb is just a perfect option, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have them going CeeDee Lamb as well. He probably would have had more yards last season if Jalen Hurts was more of a pocket passer. Let's be real. And is that Larry Fitzgerald I see on your wall behind you? Maybe CeeDee Lamb could be the Larry Fitzgerald for the Jets. Who knows? That probably is a stretch. Larry Fitzgerald is an all-time great. CeeDee Lamb.
Ears just perked up after you said that.
I mean, I know a lot of Jets fans. They complain a lot. Let's be real. But you mentioned they lost Robbie Anderson. Yeah. They lost Robbie Anderson. You could go Jerry Jeudy here. It's really a coin flip. It's whoever you think is the better of the two. But I think Lamb, he ranked 6th in the FBS last year with 1,327 yards receiving, 5th in touchdowns with 14 on only 62 passes caught. Sam Darnold just needs someone to throw to. Jamison Crowder is not a number 1 guy. Nice number 2 guy, though. I think he'll be a nice complimentary piece if he stays healthy. Quincy Enunwa, everyone thought he was going to be a great receiver. He just hasn't been healthy. So CeeDee Lamb will be a great fit in New York for a long, long time, I think, and could give some AFC East defensive coordinators headaches.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Now picking 12th, Las Vegas Raiders. That's still kind of weird.
I was only writing it down, and I had Oakland Raiders. I totally forgot they were going to Las Vegas.
It's not going to look right. Also, they keep leaving Oakland. I feel bad. The Warriors just left Oakland. Now the Raiders are leaving Oakland.
Have you been to Oakland?
They got to step it up because that's all they got now.
Have you been to Oakland?
I have not been to Oakland. I would love to go to Oakland.
I've been to Oakland. I can understand it personally. San Francisco's so much better. And who wouldn't want to go to Vegas? Vegas, baby.
I know. It's just weird. It's just odd. It's very
odd.
Their new stadium is crazy. It looks like the Death Star. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's silver and black, man. Yeah. I have him going wide receiver as well. Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
The best wideout in the draft, in my opinion, personally. I think the Jets would go more so CeeDee Lamb, but Jerry Jeudy. After the Antonio Brown experiment failed in Oakland, They just need someone that Derek Carr can throw to because they really don't have that number one receiver. They got a talented running back in Josh Jacobs. They got a talented tight end in Darren Waller. And who knows how long Derek Carr is going to be there. Jerry Jeudy will be someone who could probably prolong Derek Carr's career in Oakland. And Mike Mayock and John Gruden, they just need to give their offensive weapons. They're going to that new stadium in Las Vegas. They need a show, basically, to be there. They can't have a muddling team or else they will not thrive at all. And it's going to be one of – if Jerry Jeudy goes earlier, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. If CeeDee Lamb goes first, it's going to be Jerry Jeudy. If both of those guys are gone, it will be interesting. They probably will go defensive back or defensive lineman.
They could go Ruggs even.
They could go Ruggs. I do think that would be a slight reach. Maybe that's another spot where a team could trade up. I still have Herbert on my board. If he's still available, a team might want to trade up and try to get him. But Jared Jeudy, I think, would be a perfect fit, though, in Oakland. And they got another pick in the first round as well.
Yeah, I have Jeudy going into the Raiders as well. Litton award winner his sophomore year. He almost had kind of a drop-off from his sophomore year this year. He's still one of the best receivers in his class. He's an excellent route runner. He can juke you out of your shoes. I mean, it's like a video game. He's also great after the catch. That's a commonality amongst a lot of these receivers. I mean, they get the ball and then they make their own offense afterwards, and it's hard to stop them. He reminds me a lot, especially talking about the Raiders, of Amari Cooper 2.0. Because he's a great route runner, but he kind of has problems with catching. He's got a lot of drops, and I think that was an issue that Cooper had when he was on the Raiders. So I feel like this is almost like their substitute since they traded Cooper. They got Jerry Jeudy now since Brown didn't work, and now he's going to be their lead receiver. And then they have Josh Jacobs and pretty good offense culminating there for the Raiders.
Also, both guys, Cooper and Jeudy, Alabama. So
that too.
Translate. Yeah. 13, San Francisco, the defending NFC champions. They got this pick in a trade when they sent DeForest Buckner to Indianapolis. And not going to lie, when I was doing research, they really don't need anything.
They don't. My pick, I'm not a huge fan. This is one of the picks in my mock draft. I'm like, could it be almost anyone? I'm not.
This will probably get traded, this pick.
They could easily trade it. I mean, but that being said, we have to pick someone. So I actually have a third straight receiver going. Henry Ruggs, I think, could be the next 49er. And here's my reasoning. So they did lose Sanders. They kind of need that fast slot type of receiver. And, I mean, Ruggs got speed for days. He ran a 4.27, I believe, 40 at time. I mean, Garoppolo doesn't have the best arm to complement that. That's the only thing I'm not totally in love with. But, I mean, you have Shanahan, who's an offensive genius there. In his time with the Falcons, Taylor Gabriel put up some good numbers, and he was that speedy type of smaller receiver. And I just think he's more talented than that. And you just need someone with Deebo Samuels to kind of just help Jimmy Garoppolo because he can't really, in my opinion, carry an offense on his own. So just adding more offensive players like that can only just help your team. And they have a nice community of running backs as well to help him. So I just feel like they could go many things here. If Kinlaw or Brown were available, that'd be an easy replacement for Buckner. Yeah. But they're not available. So I think if they don't trade their pick, Henry Ruggs could be a good option for them. I mean, I'm interested to see who you have them picking, though.
I thought about going Ruggs, but I figured he and Deebo Samuel would overlap too much. And I think they'll probably try to go wide receiver a little bit later because, as we mentioned, this is a really deep wide receiver class. And if they do trade down, it makes all the more sense in the world to go wide receiver. I have him going Patrick Queen out of LSU, probably the best interior linebacker in the entire draft. It's probably arguably the weakest spot on this 49ers team. I say weakest with quotes because –
I was going to say, because you do have Fred Warner and Quan Alexander. Don't forget him. I
forgot about Quan Alexander.
That's why, I mean, Patrick Queen, talent-wise, could be selected by them, but you do have two pretty good middle linebackers already. So, I mean –
yeah, it was one of those things where, like, I had no clue what I was doing with this
I was in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like, I agree. Deebo Samuels and Ruggs could kind of they're pretty similar. Yeah. So, it might not be the best to get another copy of that. But the 49ers really just don't need anything. I mean, they've got players.
They don't need
That's why they went to the Super Bowl. That's why they were up 10 in the fourth quarter. If it wasn't for a guy named Patrick Mahomes, they'd be champions because they're the most balanced team in the league, arguably, with the Ravens, of course, especially with the offensive or off-season moves they've made.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You don't need someone who is middle of the first round talent on this 49ers team because they're that good. I will say about Queen, he does have great range for an LSU team that obviously won the national championship, like we mentioned, 69 tackles. He probably won't be a day one starter for the Niners, but he could definitely be someone who maybe as Quan Alexander gets older, you try to move on from him and you throw Queen in. And maybe, obviously, this pick of all the picks will most likely be traded, in my opinion.
Also, injury concerns with Alexander. If he continues to have that, Queen's a good plug in there.
Yeah, I agree. 14, the Bucks, with arguably the best offseason out of any team in football.
Talked about offseason at least.
That's it. They get Tommy Terrific, Tom Brady. Did you like the move?
I did. And I don't know if you remember, but we were talking on the podcast when we were back in Syracuse. And I thought this team was playoff bound before they made this move. I thought with Jameis Winston, they could be this good. Now you have Tom Terrific there. And, I mean, the sky's the limit to them. I could see as them being a 7-9 team, or it'd be 7-10 because it's a 17-game season, correct?
They've changed the whole format at this point. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's 17 games.
I don't know. I don't think that's for this season. I think it's 2021. I could be wrong.
Well, either way, they could be like a 500 level team, or they could be 2 seed. Maybe not that high, but they could be. There's a range. I could see it going either way. It just all depends on how much.
The NFC South is competitive. That's the issue.
Sorry, say that again.
The NFC South is going to be really competitive with the Saints, the Falcons,
the moves they made.
Yeah. So I have him going offensive tackle, though. I have him going Mekhi Becton, the fourth best tackle, in my opinion, in this draft. Obviously, is whoever they think is the best, whoever's still available at this point. And like we said, they've signed Brady. They need to protect him. It's all costs. Yeah. Brady needs to have as much time as possible to throw the ball to Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, and Mike Evans. It's going to be offensive tackle. It's just a matter of who.
Yeah, he's huge body, allowed 0 sacks last year. You need to give Brady that protection. The only thing, another need they could have, I don't think they would address it this early, which is why I have them taking Becton instead of a running back maybe.
Yeah.
Because, you don't have the most dependent running backs. I mean, Ronald Jones has kind of been injury prone. He's still young, and he was drafted in the second round, so he could easily carry the load next year if he stays healthy. But if you are the Bucs, you might want to look into the running back position. Maybe not at 14. That's pretty early. That'd be a reach. But second, third round, there will probably be some available. And if you're the Bucs, I'd definitely consider taking a running back. Yeah,
there would definitely be consideration for the Bucs. I think now it's just a matter of when they would take a running back. I don't think it'd be in the first round. I think it'd be much, much later at this point. 15, Denver. What do you think?
I think C.J. Henderson is the answer for the Broncos at 15. Lost Chris Harris. One of the only spots in their defense that does need work is the cornerback position. And Henderson is just the best cornerback available by far. He had 0 interceptions last year, which is a bit concerning, but he does have the reputation of a ball-hawking quarterback from Florida. They've produced good cornerbacks in the past. I think that'd be the best move for the Broncos. Yeah, I have him also going corner. I have him going A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. It's really take your pick at this point. But I like Terrell a little bit more. They lost Chris Harris. They got some nice pieces on that defense already with Chubb and Von Miller. So now it's just a matter of shoring things up in the defense secondary. That wasn't what it once was when they went to the Super Bowl and won it. But if they do draft Henderson or Terrell, as you said, they also have Justin Simmons, who's a pretty slept-on safety for them. I mean, this easily could bring them back to that almost caliber of defense, especially with their head coach being so defensive-minded. I mean, they're looking like a good team as well. That division with the Chargers, what they could live up to, the Chiefs defending Super Bowl champions, the Raiders moved to a new stadium. I mean, that's going to be a very interesting division to look at as well. Yeah. 16, Atlanta. I have him going the guy you just took in C.J. Henderson. I think similar to the Panthers a little bit earlier when I was saying with Okudah, they need to lock down Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, etc., because that team got holes in the secondary by far. They got so much talent in that offense. A bunch of first-round picks, including now Todd Gurley, who they signed in free agency. I like that move. What do you think? I was going to say, I'm pretty sure their whole offense is first-round picks. I think everyone except their tight end. Well, no, Hayden Hurst, I think, was a first-round. Oh, yeah, because they got rid of Hooper. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll haul off
No,
in the first
that's
round.
insane.
That's crazy, yeah. But as you said, defense is far from that. I have them taking defender. I think AJ Epenesa. I hope I'm saying that right.
Epenesa, yeah.
Epenesa. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But
Something
you
like
know what
that.
I'm trying to say. I think he would be a good fit for them. I mean, their secondary does need help. In my opinion, it'd be almost a reach kind of for maybe some quarterbacks. Actually, that's kind of contradicting my next pick. But anyways, I'm sticking with my pick. I think
Yeah.
Epenesa could be a great addition for them because they were struggling with pass rushing as well. They did get Fowler, which is a good addition. I just don't know how much his productive season last year was based on him having a contract year or if he's actually that type of defender. I think it'd be better to have Epenesa, who has an NFL-ready frame and he's powerful. And I think Fowler's more finesse and speed and just have that contradiction almost. Maybe he'll help stop the run as well. Some sort of defense is needed for the Falcons, whether that's cornerback, if Henderson's available, or, in my opinion, Epenesa. I'll get it right eventually.
Eventually, keyword. Yeah, I agree with that Fowler take, but I think as of right now, it makes more sense to go defensive back given the division they're in. But who knows? Atlanta could do something crazy. They always do. 17, Dallas. My favorite team. I say that with sarcasm. Who do you have them taking?
I actually do have him taking a corner. I think Jeff Gladney would be a good Byron Jones replacement for them. Got 14 pass breakups last year. He's a fast, strong defender, and he can also stop the run a little bit, which you don't see out of every cornerback these days. So I think of all the needs they have, I don't think they have many needs actually, but cornerback or just a secondary in general is definitely one that they could address in the draft.
It's definitely plausible. I have them going defensive line. I have them going Chaisson out of LSU.
That's another.
You get Epenesa wrong. I get Chaisson wrong. We're not perfect. Let's be real here. We're not paid to do this. But either here nor there, I think having someone who could be opposite DeMarcus Lawrence would be huge in their division, stopping guys, pressuring. Because the offensive lines in the NFC East aren't great, especially the Giants. The Eagles is all right. They're banged up. The Redskins is solid.
They lost Trent Williams. They do have Sheriff, but, I mean, aside from that, it's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, you could make the argument for them going O-line since they lost Travis Frederick, but of all the top guys remaining available, they're mainly offensive tackles, and Frederick obviously played center. So
also, the rest of their line is stacked. So
yeah. And we saw with the 49ers last season, when you can have two very solid pieces on the outside, like they did with Nick Bosa and Eric Armstead, it could lead to really, really good things for them. And I think the Taco Charlton pick didn't necessarily pan out as well that they took a couple years ago. So I think Chaisson will be someone who could maybe fill that void and make up for that loss.
Yeah.
All right, 18. That is, hang on.
Yeah, the Dolphins with their
again,
3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
So we're considering that they do keep this pick.
Yeah.
My boards, I don't think your board still has him. Andrew Thomas, I think.
Yeah, my board he's off my board.
Yeah, in my draft, he's still on the board. I think that's a perfect place for him to go for the Dolphins. They traded away Laramie Tunsil. He'd be a good replacement there. He's one of the best tackles in the draft. He's one of the best players available in the draft at 18. I think it's a no-brainer, Andrew Thomas. To pair, if they get Tua, get him some protection.
Yeah, I have him also getting protection for Tua. I'm going with Austin Jackson out of USC, obviously because Thomas is already off my board. So this would be the 5th offensive lineman taken for me. And we're only 18 picks in. That just shows how deep this offensive line draft is, especially at the tackle position. But like you mentioned, they need to protect Tua. If they take him, it's just a no-brainer for me. And it's once again, it's one of those things. It doesn't matter the position because they're going to go offensive tackle, in my opinion. It's now just a matter of who's available and who's their best rated guy at that position at that time.
I agree.
19, Oakland again. We both shored up their wide receiver spot the first time, right? You had him taking a wide receiver?
Yeah, I think we both had Jeudy, right?
Yeah, we both had Jeudy. I have him going Epenesa out of Iowa. I think it's just one of those picks that fits really, really well. They got their number 1 receiver with their first pick. Now, with their second one, they got to get someone who could pressure Patrick Mahomes and the other quarterbacks of the AFC West while also slowing down guys like Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon, and Phillip Lindsay. 9 sacks and 45 total tackles last year Epenesa had for an Iowa squad that is known for producing guys in the trenches. I think Epenesa, he's not going to be Khalil Mack. But when they lost Khalil Mack a couple years ago, they saw the loss of having a defensive lineman that could get some pressure. Epenesa could start filling somewhat of that void. He won't be Khalil Mack, in my opinion. Maybe he will. I hope he does, just for the sake of it. But for the Raiders, they need someone who could shore up that defensive line.
Yeah,
especially now they're going.
I have them going defense as well. In terms of edge rushers, I think with Max Crosby, he had a great showing for his rookie year. They also, their 4th pick last year, Clelin Ferrell, I mean, he didn't have the best year, but still they have 2 young guys on the edge I think could hold it down. And instead, a need that they do have is kind of that linebacker position. And Patrick Queen is still available on my board, so I think that would be the best move for them. They do need some secondary help as well. A cornerback could work for them. But I think in just terms of sheer talent in with the 19th pick, I think Patrick Queen would be the better move. Kind of an undersized but speedy sideline-to-sideline type of linebacker who's pretty similar to Corey Littleton, who they just signed in the offseason. So pair those two together. They have a lot of versatility in their front seven along with young edge rushers. So the Raiders' defense looking good for the foreseeable future if they do make this pick.
And if everything pans out accordingly for them, 20. We've reached the final third, if you will, of this first round. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Jumping ahead a little bit. I'm trying to think one step ahead of you. I have them going wide receiver this time. I think they need to give that option for Gardner Minshew. And I have him going Henry Ruggs out of Alabama. You already took him on your board. But Ruggs, he's the 3rd best receiver in this draft. He's got really good speed. He's going to be a great deep threat. Maybe not be a number 1 wide receiver on a team, but definitely someone who can give defensive coordinators headaches, similar to Deshaun Jackson and Will Fuller. Ran that 4.27 40. It's just the one concern I have with Ruggs is that he played on a team with Tua Tagovailoa, who Gardner Minshew is not, no offense. And he played on a team with Jerry Jeudy and some other really good wide receivers. So he might not have gotten all the attention of a defense because they got to cover Jeudy and those other guys. And on Jacksonville, frankly, there aren't those other receivers who will take attention away from you. All the attention, or the majority of the attention, will be on Ruggs. But I think Jacksonville needs to go wide receiver, and he's the best available at this point for me.
Yeah, I agree. I also have him taking receiver, but since Ruggs was not on my board, I have him going with T. Higgins. And I think it's a good fit for Minshew because he's a big body. He's got a big catch radius. He catches almost everything thrown his way. So it's easier since he's not the most accurate, talented QB in the world. Just to have a reliable big body like T. Higgins would be a good move for the Jaguars because their wide receiver corps is not the best, but it's not the worst. Like they had Shark last year. He was pretty good with touchdowns. He had was one of the leaders in that category. D.D. Westbrook, there's still more to see out of him, but he's still a young receiver. And you have other players on that roster, but I think T. Higgins could automatically just be the best receiver in that locker room and alleviate a lot of the pressure off of Minshew.
Yeah, I agree with that greatly. T. Higgins was another guy. Watching him when Clemson played Syracuse, I'm like, holy cow, this guy is good. I don't think he'll go this early, but he definitely could be a first-round, early second-round guy. Now to 21, the Eagles, another NFC East team. I have another wide receiver going. It's not T. Higgins. I have him going Justin Jefferson out of LSU. The guy, he benefited from having Joe Burrow have one of the best quarterback seasons of ever in college football ever. And he had a remarkable year. Nice size, great hands, led the nation in touchdowns and receiving yards, if I'm not mistaken. I think he'll just be a great fit for the Eagles team who we saw. They had Alshon Jeffrey hurt for the majority of the year. Nelson Aguilar hurt. Deshaun Jackson hurt. Zach Ertz missed some time with an injury. They need someone for Carson Wentz to throw the ball to, and I think Jefferson will be a great fit on the outside for them.
Yeah, I have him taking Jefferson as well. They just need that wide receiver, not only health, but production, and he had some of the biggest numbers in all of college football. Got 111 passes, was one of the tops in the league, like you mentioned, 18 touchdowns. I mean, they just need someone who could put up those type of numbers, especially with Aguilar gone. And he can also line up in the slot. So it might, with Deshaun Jackson, might get in the way a little bit, but you have Jeffrey on the outside. Maybe put Deshaun on the outside and Jefferson, who's a very good slot receiver, on the inside. And I think he'd just be a perfect fit for them because no matter who's available, I feel like they're going to take a receiver because that was a huge need.
Yeah,
them.
I agree completely. Minnesota, number 22.
Yeah, they have 2 of the next 4 picks.
So they do have 2 of the next 4 picks.
Here. The first of those, I have them taking Chaisson, who is off your boards, but available in mine. I think their defense, they've lost a couple pieces, especially up front with Griffin and Linval Joseph. They're no longer on the team. I feel like Danielle Hunter is one of the top edge rushers in the league, but having someone like Chaisson, who's a little bit raw, is still good to have on your team because he could be under Hunter's wing. And it's just one of the needs that they have, especially on defense. And I have them taking another defender with their 25th pick. That's why I have the Vikings taking.
Yeah, I thought about – Chaisson's obviously off my board. I thought about going Yurdim Gross-Matos out of Penn State, but I decided to go defensive back. I think that's an area where they definitely need to show up. They got rid of Xavier Rhodes, who was arguably one of the best corners in the game for a while. I have him going Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama. He's the 4th best corner, in my opinion, in this draft. And I think the Vikings, they just need someone to shore up that outside. They got Devontae Adams is in that division. Allen Robinson's in that division. They just need someone who can lock down at corner, and they really don't have that anymore at this point. So I think Diggs would be a great piece for them.
I agree. All right, looking at the 23rd pick, got the Pats.
This will be interesting.
This year. They could do a lot with this pick. They could trade up. They could keep it and draft anybody. But I have them taking Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma, the linebacker.
Okay.
I feel like he could be a good Jamie Collins type of linebacker. They did lose Collins, free agency. He's got sideline speed. He's a little undisciplined, but, I mean, who better than Belichick to fix that right up and just keep this defense as strong as it was last year because they didn't lose too many pieces, and if they can just keep that defense strong, then maybe Stidham, whoever's at quarterback, won't be as pressured in games.
Yeah, I like that you're thinking. Belichick does love defenders who are smart and physical. I thought about going a safety for them, but I think this guy's still on my board. It's Justin Herbert. The replacement to Tom Brady. He's still on my board. I figure the Patriots are going to get quarterback, and they will, whether it's Herbert or Jordan Love or Jake Fromm in a later round. It's going to be someone, and Herbert was just on my board still. So I'm like, well, why not right here for the Patriots? I think Belichick could mold him nicely, and it would be really interesting to see. But if not, I do think they'll go defense. Probably Xavier McKinney, the safety out of Alabama.
Him too. The only reason they have both McCourties and they have Patrick Chung and
but they're all getting older.
They are getting older, so that could be a good option. I feel like Murray, in my opinion, would fit more day one. But if I was in your shoes and Herbert was available, I would easily put him on the Pats. Because why not? But also, it does seem like Stidham, they are leaning more towards Stidham, at least for this year. And if it doesn't work out, they might trade possibly for Trevor Lawrence or someone in next year's draft. Because if Herbert is not available, then Jordan Love is the best possible one. And I'm just not very sold on Jordan Love. That being said, Saints up next.
I will say one more thing, though.
All right, yeah.
About the Patriots. Of the quarterbacks available, you got Jameis Winston, Cam Newton. I don't see either of them fitting well. Mitchell Trubisky could be on the move. Derek Carr could be on the move. Maybe that works. Josh Rosen in Miami. That is someone who I think could make his way to New England. And we've talked about this earlier a couple weeks ago when we were thinking about free agency. If they go Tua, the Dolphins do, that makes Rosen expendable. And who knows, maybe Bill Belichick swoops right in.
So, yeah, I could see him doing something more like that than drafting a quarterback in this draft. That being said, mentioned Jordan Love. I have him going to the Saints.
I do as well.
24.
Yeah.
I think it just makes sense. They're like the Niners. They don't have many holes on their team that they need to fill right away. And in terms of who's left on the board, I don't think it would make sense to kind of reach on anyone like that. I feel like it's smarter with Drew Brees, 2 more years on his contract. You know he's going to be done by then. So someone like Jordan Love who does need to learn in a system, he's not the best he needs time to grow, definitely, because at Utah State he didn't have great numbers, and that's not a strong conference. So it's the reason he might be going so high is just based on pure arm strength, and some of the throws he's made are uncoachable, I've heard. So if you have someone like Peyton to have him under his wing, also under Drew Brees' wing for 2 years, because Taysom Hill, if we're being real, is not the real franchise quarterback answer once Brees is gone. I feel like Jordan Love would be a good use of their 24th pick.
Yeah, I agree. Jordan Love would be a great spot. They could go linebacker, but I think those guys are a little bit of a reach at this point. So I think Jordan Love would be under Drew Brees' wing for 2-3 years. Taysom Hill is not a quarterback. He's a gadget guy. We've seen that. I think he'd be better fit in that role where Jordan Love, just imagine how much fun Sean Payton would have molding a guy with the talent and raw ability of Jordan Love. I think it's a no-brainer at 24. And who knows, maybe this is another opportunity where a team tries to trade up.
Could very well help it as well. It's going to be very interesting to see where Jordan Love ends up, because I feel like of all the quarterbacks of the top-tier level, he's the most uncertain at this point.
Yeah, I agree. 25, Minnesota. Their second pick in his 4 picks. I have him going wide receiver because they lost Stephon Diggs. First off, how do you feel Stephon Diggs to Buffalo? Is that a move? Do you like the Bills?
I like the Bills. In terms of the Bills, it's a good move. I think it's a good move for both sides. I mean, sure, it wasn't really working. You could tell kind of like Diggs wanted the ball more. You had Thielen already, he could be a number 1 receiver. So that's why I feel like Diggs was expendable and he could be moved. But also, if you're the Bills, talk about someone to help Josh Allen now. I mean, he's one of the more talented receivers in this league, and he's had stints where he's put up numbers that echo that. It wasn't really working with the Vikings. They're more of a run favorite offense anyways. It wasn't a good fit. So I feel like it was good for both sides, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think with the Bills, they got John Brown who can go deep. Diggs can go a little bit, but he'll control more of the middle of the field, and Cole Beasley running the short routes. Very interesting. With the 25th pick, though, I have the Vikings going receiver, trying to fill that hole. I have them going Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State. I was thinking about T. Higgins, but I think Ayuk is a better talent overall than Higgins. And I think it'd be just a nice fit to complement Adam Thielen, give Kirk Cousins someone else to throw to. Wouldn't be making a whole lot of waves in the NFC North.
Yeah. And for the 25th pick, I have the Vikings taking a cornerback, as you had them with their earlier pick. I have them taking Christian Fulton, though. He got 14 pass breakups last year. He's been known as kind of a sticky defender. He's just always on you. And if they get that type of shutdown type corner like they had when Rose was on that level for a little bit, then he started to drop off, and now he's gone. I feel like their secondary is one of their weaker positions, and also their front line was. So if they address both those needs in this draft, that's a win for them.
I agree completely. 26, Miami, their third pick if they keep him. Where do you have them going?
I think if this happens, this would be one of my favorite picks in the draft. Jonathan Taylor.
Really?
Running back in the first round. Not many people were thinking a running back would be taken in the first round, as they've been undervalued, as we mentioned earlier with the whole McCaffrey thing. He's undoubtedly the best in running back in this draft, in my opinion. I mean, the numbers alone say it's 6th most rushing yards in FBS history. He was a workhorse for Wisconsin, who's had pretty good running backs in the past. I mean, you look at Melvin Gordon, that's one example. And if the Dolphins, that's one of their biggest holes on offense as well. I mean, you have the offensive line that we addressed earlier in the draft, and then Tua. Now you need a running back because they don't have Ajayi anymore. They don't have Kendrick anymore. They pretty much have no one at running back. So might as well take the best one that you can get in Jonathan Taylor. And it's almost their whole draft is going to be offensive picks, or at least their whole first round will be offensive picks, because in free agency they were mainly defensive signings like Kyle Van Noy, Shaq Lawson,
Byron Jones,
all them. So, yeah, so that way, if you're the Dolphins, you address both sides of the ball with 3 solid players each.
I like the pick of Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to go running back and not Jonathan Taylor. I'm going DeAndre Swift out of Georgia. I just think something about him would be really, really good. We've seen Georgia running backs in recent years. Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. DeAndre Swift is next. And I think he will have a remarkable career wherever he ends up. Jonathan Taylor was another option for me. I've considered him, but I don't think his game will translate as well to the NFL as DeAndre Swift. He's gotten a lot of carries Jonathan Taylor has in his career.
He's got a lot of mileage.
He's been beaten up a lot, and I think DeAndre Swift hasn't received that same beating at this point of his career. So I think the Dolphins will go that route. But I like your thinking with running back.
No, I agree with you too. I think Swift could easily be replaced with Taylor in that position, especially because in terms of the receiving game, it's undoubted that Swift is better than Taylor. And as you mentioned, the mileage is not as steep on Swift's end. But I do think the Dolphins, if they keep this pick, should definitely address running back because they pretty much have no one as of now.
I agree. Next pick, 27, Seattle. I think they haven't signed Jadeveon Clowney yet. He's still a free agent. And regardless of whether or not they sign him, I think they need to go defensive end. And this is where Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State fits in perfectly for me. I think he's a really, really good pass rusher. I think Penn State, he thrives in that system. And Pete Carroll, we know how much he loves defense. The Legion of Boom is no more. But I think now that defensive line is starting to shine, and I think Gross-Matos will be a huge pick. And if they sign Jadeveon Clowney, both those guys on the ends will be really, really interesting to watch. Frank Clark, I believe he's still on that squad. Or is he? No, Frank Clark's from Kansas City.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that would be a great pick, whether he's replacing Clowney or playing alongside him.
Yeah, I have Gross-Matos going to the Seahawks as well. Whether or not Clowney signs, I mean, if Clowney signs, that's just a plus for the Seahawks defense. But he's just a fast, athletic defensive end, one of the best available. And I think it's definitely a need that they have because they should definitely address defense. So I agree with Gross-Matos to the Seahawks.
Yeah. 28, the team that I thought was going to win the Super Bowl. Not going to lie. The Baltimore Ravens.
I think most people will. I mean, if you don't think that, if you didn't think they were going to the Super Bowl or at least going to the conference championship, you'd be lying. But everyone thought they'd at least go to the AFC Championship game. I mean, no one predicted the Titans would do that to them. No. But talk about, we said the Niners and Saints, teams with no needs. This team doesn't need a thing. I mean,
I think they need one thing.
All right. What do we
They need one thing, and that's a linebacker. C.J. Mosley's no longer there. They did sign Matthew Judon. The loss of Zaire Smith or Preston Smith? One of the two.
Well, Preston Smith was the previous offseason to the
right, yeah. But that hurt them, I think, a little bit last year on defense. I think they need a linebacker. And this is where they go Zach Braun. Maybe a little bit of a reach out of Wisconsin. But similar, the Big Ten, they create really good linemen and linebackers. And I think Braun is another one of those guys. Could be similar to a TJ Watt, just on the edge, rushes the quarterback, and does well in coverage. I think he'll be a nice fit onto that Ravens defense that, like you said, they don't need much. They're already really, really good. You could make the argument for them going running back because they lost Mark Ingram. He's no longer on the team. So, but I think linebacker Zach Braun out of Wisconsin would be the pick here.
I also have Braun actually going to the Ravens. I think him and Judon on the edge would be great for that Ravens defense. I mean, they're just going to be scary front seven, like scary front seven, especially if you add Wisconsin product. And, I mean, we as Giant fans, we know a little bit about it. Ryan Conley was a pick out of Wisconsin last year, and he was injured, but in early play in preseason, he looked like he could be the centerpiece of our defense. Especially if we don't take Simmons, he might very well be the middle linebacker for the Giants. And Wisconsin, just in general, breeds great defenders, like you said, TJ Watt as well. I think Braun would just be a good depth fit as well for the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree completely there. Number 29. Yeah.
It's over an hour. We're still not finished, but we're at the home stretch.
Let's be real. The NFL draft as a whole is going to be much, much longer than an hour in the first round. So we're just trying to keep the pace. And you know what? We're having fun, I hope.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Tennessee, the surprise team of last season. They franchise tagged Derrick Henry. They brought back Ryan Tannehill. Where I thought about going wide receiver, and I thought about going defensive end. I ended up going wide receiver. I think T. Higgins, this is where he finds himself, making him the fifth or sixth wide receiver, in my opinion, in the first round. Might be a record. Who knows? I think pairing him with A.J. Brown. Adam Humphries has not panned out all too great. Pairing Higgins with A.J. Brown would be insane, in my opinion. And AFC South, where the secondaries are not the greatest. The Texans is all right. The Colts is okay. The Jaguars stink. But I think having that second weapon outside for Tannehill to throw to, although they might not use him because Derrick Henry's there, it's just another option to have.
As I say, I was thinking wide receiver. I wasn't too sure with the Titans pick. This was one of the more unsure picks I've had. Wide receiver was an option. I feel like they didn't need it as much because they had a stud last year, as you mentioned, and Derrick Henry carrying the load. So I feel like defense should be more their concern. And you said edge rusher, I think more interior, especially because they are a 3-4 defense. And a good nose tackle position could be Ross Blacklock out of TCU. Kind of underrated, not on many people's radars, but he's just a giant force to be reckoned with. He caused mayhem in the backfield. And I feel like he'd just be a good fit along with Simmons, who was their first pick in last year's draft. If those two, click together, that could be a good front seven for the Titans.
I do like that pick of Blacklaw. I think he's the third best defensive tackle in the draft behind Kinlaw and
big gap.
Brown.
It definitely is. But
but I think there's many ways they can go. I'm leaning more toward defense, although I did say T. Higgins. I do think that defense is where they go just because that's probably the greatest need right now. Is more so best player available, in my opinion. 30.
Also, just one more note, just looking at some of the more successful teams as of late, they built it in the trenches. So might as well big body down there for the Titans. I mean, you can never have too many of those.
Aside from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
It's real. But neither here nor there. 30. The Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers got smacked in the NFC Championship, one could say. They are probably talent-wise the second or third best team in the NFC.
Yeah,
behind the Saints and Niners. So I have them going offensive line. Where do you have them going?
I was torn between two selections. I feel like they could go offensive line. The tackle position at this point is not as strong, so I feel like maybe in a later, maybe the second round or something, they could address that. I think they really need to give Rodgers some help in terms of wide receivers because Devontae Adams was on an island of his own. He was pretty much all they had. And yet Allen Lazard just out of nowhere as your second best option on a playoff team like this. I don't think that's acceptable. So I think Jalen Reagor would be a good selection out of TCU there. He didn't have the most production in the world, only 611 yards on 43 catches. So there's not much to see there. But in terms of the combine and what he's been doing as of quarantine, I've seen videos of him just busting, what. And I feel like he could be there's a lot of receivers in this realm that could go at this position, but I feel like they just, in general, the Packers, I think, need a second wide receiver option.
I do like that thinking. Maybe this is where T. Higgins goes or Brandon Ayuk. Justin Jefferson, maybe. I think he'll go probably a little bit higher. He's probably the best of that second tier.
Yeah.
But I have him going offensive tackle. Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State. He's actually the fifth highest rated tackle on ESPN. So I think there's something there. I think they just need to protect Aaron Rodgers and give lanes for Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones had a remarkable year last year. I think they can build off of that. And they probably go wide receiver a little bit later. I don't know what their second round pick is looking like for the Packers, but I definitely think that would be an option for them. I have them going offensive line at this point.
Yeah, tackle or wide receiver, either or. They just need some help offensively. Because Rodgers can't do it all on his own, especially as he gets older in age.
Yeah.
So they get harder and harder. And they would love to see Aaron Jones repeat the season he had because that almost came out of nowhere, his production, and it really alleviated some of the pressure off of Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 31, the Niners again. Once again, what do they need? I really don't know. But I have him going corner. Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama. I think he is the fourth best corner or so. You can make the case, maybe even the third. I think he could be someone who could be the successor for Richard Sherman, who's getting up there in age, someone who he'll have a great mentor in Sherman and won't necessarily have to play early on that Niners defense. He'll get to learn and develop, but I think he'll definitely be he's a piece for the future.
Yeah.
And I think also with this pick, we've seen in recent years, someone tries to trade back into the first round toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
This will probably be the spot here, 30, 31, or 32. Someone will try to trade back in.
Especially if they already drafted at 13, I definitely think look to move this pick. I had Diggs originally for the Niners, but I think because of the Richard Sherman aspect, he'd be a good successor and to learn off of him. But I feel like a different secondary option they could go towards is Xavier McKinney. He's still available. I think he's a first-round talent, in my opinion. He's a flexible defensive back. He had 95 tackles last year, which is a pretty high amount. And he's very good in the slot, too. So that's kind of a position that they don't necessarily are filled on. So that could be a good plug-and-play for them as well. I think he's just all around for their secondary. It's not the strongest, so I feel like he could be a good addition.
I like that pick. I thought about going McKinney here. I don't think he'll make it into my first round, unfortunately, because we go to 32 with the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. I thought about giving McKinney the Kansas City Chiefs. Why not start your career on the defending champs? But I haven't going to running back. I'm going Jonathan Taylor here. Although we mentioned a little bit earlier with his wear and tear, I think LaShawn McCoy, that experiment hasn't worked. Damian Williams, I really don't trust him. I don't think he's a feature back. I think Jonathan Taylor can. J.K. Dobbins was in consideration for me, but I like Taylor going here for the Chiefs, who, once again, they don't need a whole lot. But I think Taylor behind Patrick Mahomes would be something fun to see.
Yeah, and on my board, Swift is still available. I think he would be a great addition to that team. He's not my pick, though. Just let me get that clear. I do have him taking Jalen Johnson because I feel like secondary is one of their weaker ones. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu been helping in terms of safety production, but in terms of a lockdown corner, they did sign Rashad Breeland. I feel like they need a stronger go-to shutdown corner. And I feel like Jalen Johnson's one of the more slept-on corners in this draft. I mean, you look at some of the numbers. His career passer rating against him was 52. Gave up 3 touchdowns in his almost 1,000 career snaps. I mean, talk about shutdown. And that'd be a perfect addition to a Chiefs cornerback core that isn't the strongest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that pick. You mentioned Tyrann Mathieu. I think McKinney would be a nice spot, similar to the 49ers. Mm-hmm. Someone who could learn under Tyrann Mathieu and be the safety of the future. But yeah, that's the first round, Ryan. It took about an hour or so. Probably won't be that same way next week.
But it flew by as well because we made it quite entertaining. Or at least I hope we did. Hopefully. And we both made very good picks. And I mean, there weren't like any of your picks. I was like, whoa, really? Like I disagreed with that. I mean, we both had very solid reasoning behind our picks as well. And this just builds up the hype for next week, which I'm very excited for because we've had pretty much no sports going on for a while now. This is going to be one of the biggest sporting events that's happened. So I'm just waiting in anticipation for it.
Fingers crossed everything goes well. I will say, though, like we said, we weren't doing any trades. So that will be another aspect of the draft next week. Because obviously teams are going to want to move around. Teams are going to want to move down, move up. So that will make things a whole lot more interesting. But I think overall the general consensus is Joe Burrow is going to be 1. Tua is going to Miami. Herbert will probably go in the first round somewhere. It's going to be a boatload of offensive tackles, a boatload of wide receivers. There's just a lot of talent in this draft. It's going to be hard to miss, but some teams will. Overall, though, what team do you think needs to have the biggest draft night next week?
It's a good question. There's a couple on here. I mean, you could look at the Dolphins. I mean, they have 3 picks. I mean, it's hard to strike out on all 3. So one of these, especially with Tua, who very well should be going there. I mean, this is a big franchise-changing draft for the Dolphins. Looking at some of these, also the Raiders, they have 2 picks in this draft, and they're moving to their new stadium. They need that firepower, whether it's Herbert, whether it's a receiver like Jeudy, as we have them picking. I mean, this could be a very momentum-swinging draft for the Raiders as well.
Yeah, I think the team that needs the most out of this draft is Miami. Miami's taking a huge risk here. They got rid of a lot of talent on their team to get draft picks. They tried tanking for Tua. They most likely will take him. We both have him going there. They got 2 other picks in this first round. Eventually, they have so many picks. You could say, oh, they could trade down. They could trade down. Eventually, they're going to have to make a pick. So who that's going to be is going to be very, very crucial. And in AFC East now, that is wide open with Tom Brady no longer there. The Bills look like the front runner, but the Patriots are still there with Bill Belichick. The Jets, maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
They got Le'Veon Bell. They got Sam Darnold. Something could happen. The Dolphins have an opportunity here to set their franchise up really, really good for the next 10, 15 years, and they need to hit on a lot of their picks.
Yeah, they'll most likely be the story of this draft.
Yeah.
Because Tua will most likely be the story of this draft, and if he goes there, hand in hand. But, yeah, I'm very excited. I'm glad we got to resume our Chips podcast.
I agree.
On a month of delay with everything that's been happening. But
let's not have a month before our next episode, okay?
Oh, yes, definitely. We won't delay that long, but we also need some more sports news to start heating up. So
we can think of something.
Yeah, well, we're two creative gentlemen. We'll think of something.
Yeah. Well, that's been the Chips Podcast mock draft special, if you will. For Ryan Amick, I'm Tyler Melito. We'll see you next time, right, Ryan?
Yep. See you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody.